Welcome to the Author to Authority podcast. And today I have such a treat for you. I have John Schuchman, trying to say that correctly.
No, that's okay.
And one of the reasons why I wanted to have him on the show was one of his podcast titles is like how to grow your business to 100K for free or without advertising. And I'm like, that is somebody I want on the show. Not that I'm against advertising at all, but in the beginning when you're trying to grow that business, if there's things that you can do for free, I want you to know about it. So, John is a top realtor who has created a six-figure real estate business using organic social media growth in the first 2 years of his business. In 2019, he lost a full-time W-2 job, and I'll have to ask about that because I'm Canadian, not sure what that is, and struggled mentally and emotionally for months before he found his home in real estate. He has helped others successfully transition from employee to entrepreneur with no advertising. I love this. No advertising. He tripled his business in 1 year and could teach you how to do the same. So, welcome to the show, John.
Well, Kim, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. And I'll just say, I have a podcast as well. And so I just want to thank you for what you're doing and how you're helping people. I think podcasting can be, we both do it. And so often, I mean, if you feel like me, it can be a thankless job where you're sometimes like, is this worth it? Am I making an impact? Am I actually helping people? Why am I spending money to edit or show notes or things like that? Right. So I just want to say thank you, first of all, for what you're doing to help people. Because I think, obviously putting yourself out there, being willing to help others is huge. And so first and foremost, I'll just say thank you for what you're doing with your show and how you're helping people through it.
Oh, thanks so much, John. I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't get a lot of feedback.
Yeah.
It's a one-way street. So,
Mhm. It's
audience,
definitely a labor of love. Yeah.
if you're listening, find me on LinkedIn, Word Ninja Kim. Give me some feedback.
Yeah.
Reviews never hurt either. Like I like reviews. I gotta say
Mhm.
that I do like the reviews. So,
And what I
but
would
that's
say
not the
to
reason why I do it. But they're
yeah.
always appreciated.
And I'll say to your audience, this isn't what we were going to talk about, but I will say, like, you don't know, if you're listening to this, think about like how you can impact someone and help somebody, right? So if you've been
Mhm.
listening to Kim's show for a few weeks, months, whatever it is, right? Maybe she's, thought, hey, is this helping people? But then she gets that one review where it's like, oh, wow, that really impacted someone. Really quick, and I don't want to go way off your track that you use, but there's a great story of Frank Sinatra where he was about to long story short, I'll try to give it the 60-second version, but he almost 2 years before he actually retired, he was on stage fumbling over the words, couldn't remember them, and was about to, his kind of like handler or assistant was
Mhm.
like, all right, it's time, get off the stage. One person in the very back row, all the way in the bleachers, started clapping. We love you, Frank. And then the whole stadium or whatever it was erupted. And so, I just want you listening to this to think about how you can, not just you, Kim, but even, if you're listening to a podcast, let them know. Because Frank then went on, and there's a great article about this if you Google it. He went on to perform for 2 more years. And so I think the point is, like, you have no idea the impact you can have. Sometimes all we need as podcasters, realtors, business people, coaches, like all that stuff is just one person cheering for us to keep going. And so if you're
Yeah.
listening to this, please, if you love what Kim's doing to help you for free through a podcast, leave her a review. And so that would be my encouragement to your audience. So yeah, I didn't mean to go on a tangent there, but I really hope that also encourages your audience, right? How are you? And again, we'll get into social media, but that's a way to use social media. How am I promoting other people, right? When this, I want to be able to share this episode that I was on to promote Kim. And so I would just think about, how are you using your authority, your presence, your impact, maybe your social media presence, your email list, to promote and help other people. So I would just encourage all of you listening to think about that for Kim and for others that you know as well.
There is a scripture that says, give and it'll be given back to you. And
Mm-hmm.
now we don't always know how it comes back. But I
Yeah.
think the concept is, when you give, it helps others and ultimately it helps you.
And I think that's it. It's so true, Kim. I'm a person of faith as well, follower of Jesus, and I find it so interesting when I kind of help I coach realtors, right? And we'll get into my story here. I coach realtors, right? And so some of those realtors live in my city, live in my county. And so
Mhm.
sometimes they're like, well, why would you help me? Like, I'm your competition. And I'm like, there's not enough good realtors in the area. There's not enough good realtors. There's not enough good, all, coaches, authors, all those things.
Yeah.
So like, I want to help you, right? Rising tides brings up all ships. And so I want to be a part of impacting and
Mhm.
helping others. So yeah, love what you're doing.
And the way I look at it is there's enough business for everyone.
Bingo. Yep. I had someone on my real estate team for a while that was like, "Well, why are you helping me? Won't I take your business?" And I'm like, "If you're nice and you answer the phone, you're better than 90% of the realtors out there. I don't have to worry about my business. If I'm doing the things I need to be doing, keeping in touch with my clients, etc., my business will grow. It's not going to be taken down by one person."
And the other thing I realized too is because I work with a lot of other publishers, is the fact that I'm not everyone's cup of tea. And if I have a
Yeah.
network of other publishers and I can ensure that the person who wants to write the book or get their book published and written for them is with the right person. I've turned down business because I realized that person was not the right client for me, but I was able to refer them to another publisher that was the right one for them. And they were such an amazing fit. Now, sometimes do I get a referral fee? Yeah, sometimes I do. But, I don't do it for the referral fee. I do it because it's the right thing to do. And in return, when they have one that they can't work on, guess who they're going to call?
You absolutely. Yeah. And people want to do business with people that they know, like, and trust. So if you're
Mhm.
doing a great job, like you are, of creating relationships with people where you're just like, hey, here's a referral for you. Sometimes when you start, people are like, why are you helping me? Right? Because we're so used to like thinking of numero uno, right? Only ourselves.
Cutthroat.
And so yeah. So it's kind of like I actually just before I got on was messaging a realtor, and the way they kind of message is like, why are you inviting me to your thing to help me? And I'm like, and again, I didn't really, he didn't say that, but it kind of came across that way. And I was like, because I, again, as a person of faith, I feel like I want to help people. I want to pour into them. I think at the end of our lives, we're not going to think how much money did I make or how many houses did I sell or how many books did I edit or write. We're going to think about like, who did I help? How did I impact people? And I hope,
Yeah.
Lord willing, that like my impact, through shows I'm on, through my podcast,
Mhm.
last much longer than I'm alive. I hope that it still impacts people for years and years to come.
My grandma was a woman of faith and she died when I was 12. Now, I didn't go to her funeral. My dad kind of gave us the choice and I wasn't ready to go to her funeral. So I was kind of like, okay, I'm going to stay home. But Toronto is the biggest city in Canada
Okay.
and her funeral was in downtown Toronto. So they were anticipating, and it was in the middle of the week. So they were anticipating about 100 ish people, but my grandma had lived her life impacting others, helping and serving other people. And when they got there, there was 300 to 400 people going to her funeral. They had to call in the police to
Yeah.
direct traffic because everything was gridlocked because there was 3 to 4 times more people than they were anticipating at her funeral because
Mhm.
she had touched so many lives. And
Wow.
that's what I want.
Mhm.
I not that I'm going to be at my own funeral, but I imagine that, when I die, that people are going to want to come to my funeral because I've made an impact in their life. And to me,
Mhm.
that's what matters. Yeah, we need money and, we need to live and all that. But, your legacy,
Mhm.
what's my legacy going to be?
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that word. It's like one of my words for the year is legacy. So yeah.
Mhm. Okay, so we are already 10 minutes in here, John.
Yeah. Sorry. I went way off the rails.
I think it's good though. So, John, can you maybe take 2 or 3 minutes and
Mhm.
just share about your story? Because I do want to give you a lot of time to
Mhm.
talk about, how do you build your business to
Yeah.
100K? So, I'm going to
Yeah.
let you loose for a few minutes.
Awesome. Well, so I think the biggest thing, so if you, I'll give you the 90-second version. I've had more and you, okay, so you asked, so W-2 job, sorry, is like a traditional 9 to 5 job, right? So a
Okay.
traditional job, you work for somebody, you get a paycheck. In the States, it's called a W-2. So that's why we call it a W-2 job. So basically, I've had more traditional jobs than you could ever think of. Anything with sales, was in management with Chick-fil-A, banking, sold mattresses for a period of time. If there's a job where you sell something, I've probably done it. Um, there's a great quote by Albert Einstein that I feel like I share a lot on interviews now, and it basically says, "Everybody's a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll grow up its whole life thinking it's stupid." That was me.
Yep.
So, from the time I was 16 years old, selling tools at Sears to 2019, 3 years ago, uh, when I was 31, 32, I can't even remember at this point, but I lost my last W-2 job. So my last traditional job that day, February 26, 2019. I had a lot of people doubted me. A lot of people questioned me. Now, just so you know, like I lost a bunch of jobs. I wasn't like sleeping with the employees or robbing the cash register. I was such a dreamer and a visionary. Okay. So even now in my real estate business, like this morning, I'm like, oh, what about this? What about this? Coming up with all these ideas for my business to help people through my coaching and podcast. Um, well, in a traditional job, and I think of, give you a quick example in banking. I would have an assistant branch manager email me, hey, can you email this person? And I'm thinking, did you just email me to ask me to email someone? Like what? So I, I pushed back on authority probably a little bit more than I should, got myself, canned a few different times. And by a few, I mean like a million. Um, but I was always good at sales and relationships.
Mhm.
So when I finally, so we kind of, again, big people of faith, followers of Jesus, when I lost that job, we're like, okay, what's next? I had friends that were in real estate that basically said, hey, you'd be really good at this because I asked. Um, and so I got my real estate license August of 2019. So kind of had 6 months where I was trying to figure out my way. Um, and from there, sold no homes for 9 months. Okay. So we were like living off my wife's $37,000 income. It was not, how they talk, Dave Ramsey, if you know him, talks about beans and rice. We were like beans and rice. And bread. That's what we ate. Um, but all that to say, when I finally got into real estate, I'm like, holy cow, this is it. This has been like what I've searched my whole life for. This is my niche. Why? I was always good at sales. I was always good at relationships. Real estate is one of those fields that combines both of them.
Mhm.
You got to be able to sell, but you also have to have the relationship piece, right? My
Yeah.
stepdad taught me how to sell ice to an Eskimo. But if you have a sleazy car salesman side, no one's going to buy from you. So how do you combine those sales and relationships like
Mhm.
this? So when I got into real estate, I had no money. Um, well, yeah, that's the background. And then I got into real estate. I can go right into like how I use social media if you'd like.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sure, that would be great.
So basically, and this is there are so many big misses. And if you're writing a book, if you're an author, if you're a coach, whatever it is, there are so many things you can do on social media for free. How did I
Mhm.
discover this? Well, I was making no money in real estate, right? My first settlement took place in April of 2020. Okay. So now we've gone August to April, right? I'm not good at math. That's why I'm a realtor, not a lender, but about 8 or 9 months. Um, and then my next settlement was in June. So from August to July, I think I had made $10,000 in real estate in my first 10 months.
Mhm.
Okay. But what I learned was um, I had a previous side hustle do it as a wedding photographer, right? So what I learned when I did that was every time I would post on social media, hey, here's a client gallery, here's a review from a client for a wedding,
Mhm.
it would kind of be like one client goes out, here's your gallery, I share it on Facebook, and another client comes in because they see it. Oh, I didn't know you did photography. So here's what I did. Make Now you got to realize making no money, broke as all get out. In June of 2020, actually, we asked family if we could move in with them because we were like, we got to sell our house. We're not going to make it. From that time, and I'll fill the gap in a second, from June of 2020 to June of 2022, we paid off $70,000 in debt and our $150,000 house. So $220,000 swing in 2 years. So we're actually going, I was telling you before we started recording, to Nashville next week, do a debt-free scream at Dave Ramsey's studio. But I'll back up to how I found the success, right?
Mhm.
We're very thankful. God's blessed us so much. Like, it's just crazy that all happened in 2 years. So How did it happen? What I learned with the photography was anytime I would make a post, someone would interact, someone would say something. Now, of course, with Facebook and Instagram stories, that's a big thing that can be helpful. So, what I did was anytime I was doing a real estate activity, I put it on social media, right? I have a friend who says your social media is your living and breathing portfolio. Think of it like something that grows over
Mhm.
time, right? Just like you do as a person, right? So, um, people have watched our entire journey. When I got licensed, my first client looked at 63 homes. Ton of homes. Okay, that's a lot. Most of my clients are looking at about 5 to 10. Um, but instead of like, "Oh, I gotta go show that client a house again," I had no business, so why wouldn't I do it? So instead, I thought, well, instead of like being Debbie Downer about it, why don't I use this to my advantage? So anytime I would be at a showing, showing a client a house, showing a client a house. Now, nobody knew that that was one dang client for 6 months. But it didn't but yeah, and it's funny, but here's the thing.
Uh,
Social media is all about perception, right, Kim? I wasn't
yeah.
lying. I just said I didn't say showing my one stupid client, and they weren't like they had a lot of scenarios, moved states, and so that's why they looked at so many, but I just used it to my advantage. So if I went to a showing with my Starbucks or my Chick-fil-A or whatever, hey, here at a showing today. I remember my wife was working, and so one time I took my son to a showing. Oh, here with Caden, and we're showing a house today. Um, you know, so I use that to my advantage. About 3 months in, so we're probably December, January, at this point. 3 months in, people are messaging me, "Holy cow, man, you're crushing it on real estate. How are you doing it? You're crushing it. Holy cow," all those every Sunday I would host an open house. Now, if you're a realtor or you know real estate, you don't make any money when you host an open house. You make money at the settlement table.
Mhm.
But I use that to my advantage, right? Posted about showings, posted, "Hey guys, come see me at this open house, 123 Main Street." And suddenly the perception was like, John is crushing it. Now, I told you, August to June, 2 deals. So we are broker than broke, but social media, my 3,500 or whatever Facebook friends think, holy crap, this guy's raking in the dough. So yeah, but I think it's so simple. What I learned in that is, holy cow, all I'm really doing is sharing my life, talking about my business, uh, being open and honest with people. Now, I didn't say, hey, we're really broke, but then as we started to pay off debt and do Dave Ramsey's plan, I did share, hey
Mhm.
guys, this is what happened in June of 2020, and this is where we've come from. So what I've really learned, Kim, is people want to do business with people that they know, like, and
And
trust,
trust. Yep.
right? So for those of you out there, I would ask you, yeah, and like, how many Facebook friends do you have? How many Instagram followers do you have? How many of them actually know what you do,
Mhm.
right? Um, and that's really not to oversimplify it, but like that's what I do. Still to this day, I just had a couple go under contract last week. I have a post to make under contract. Someone sees that, it goes in the story, it goes on my business page
Mhm.
and then shared to my personal page. Still to this day, okay, so realize 3 years now, I've been a realtor
Mhm.
over 3 years. I still will get messages that say, "Oh my goodness, I didn't realize you were in real estate. Like, can you help us buy a house?" I've had friends from 2006 when I was in college message me and say, "Can you help us?" And I'm like, "I didn't even know you were alive 14 years later." Like, or no, I'm not good at math. Yeah, whatever it is, 16 years later, 15 years, I had no idea where you were, but there's so many lurkers on social media seeing your stuff. And so what
Mhm.
you really want is you want people seeing your stuff. Now, and so many people are like, "Well, I don't want to be annoying." Well, your friends and family on Facebook, if they're annoyed by you building your business, are they really friends anyway? Right? And if they don't like it, they can hit the unfollow for 30 days or the remove, and you'll be okay. Um, but I want to encourage people, Kim, with this. Think about when you buy a new car.
Mhm.
Everybody suddenly has that car. That's the only car you see on the road.
I
So
know.
so think about it like this. Okay, John's a realtor, but like, we'll just use John and Kim. John's a realtor. Kim's not looking for a realtor. So she sees my stuff, but she kind of just scrolls through it and is lurking, right? And then she needs to buy a house. She goes, "Oh, wait, I think John Schuchman's a realtor." She messages me. And I'm telling you, that is exactly how it was created. It's almost too simple. but that's
Mhm.
how I've done it, right?
But
Um,
it's the consistency factor.
it is. I have I lead a team with a guy, Andy, the Andrew Well Group, and he's like the team leader, and I lead it with him. He is very successful in real estate, right? Very successful
Mhm.
until last year. Never posted on social media. Well, but who are the people buying houses now? The ones on Facebook, the ones on Instagram. So if I'm looking for a realtor, and at the time I saw John or Andy, well, Andy might be super successful, but his Instagram and Facebook tells me that he's dead and he doesn't sell any houses. So I'm going to go with John. And so I would
And
encourage
Google
all
shows that too,
oh, Kim, Google Analytics is
right?
like my favorite thing. Yeah, I if you Google John Schuchman Realtor, you will see client pictures, my pictures. You will see reviews that I'm leaving on other businesses. I just got an email
Social
from
proof.
Google I just got email from Google today that my views on my Google in the last month are about 2,000 clicks. Well, the month before it was 200. Well, what am I doing? I'm going to Starbucks. Today I drove past a Chick-fil-A, doing a deposit check somewhere, left a review, great location, took a picture. Sarah at the window was very nice, post it. 13 seconds, done. Um, so Google, oh, I could talk for hours about Google, but I just think there is so many ways. And here's my favorite thing, Kim. Do you know what this all is? Free. Free is my favorite word, right? Free is my
Mhm.
favorite word. Um, and so I think there's a lot of misses, right?
Yes.
I would ask people who are listening to this, think about this and write this down. Maybe pause this, go get a notepad. The people on social media, I would ask you what percent of those people, let's go with Facebook since that's my primary one. But the people on Instagram, on Facebook, how many of them know what you do? Like if they had to give an elevator pitch about you, would they know? I would bet
Mhm.
90% of the people you're connected with have no idea, right?
Yeah.
There's times that again, like I post and someone's like, "Oh, I didn't know you were a realtor." And I'm like, "I've posted multiple times about real estate for 3 years. Have you lived under a rock?" But that's kind of how the algorithm works. Um,
Well,
so
and the
if
other
you
thing is, like you said, because they're not interested in buying a house, they see it, but it doesn't stick in there, right? Because they're not
yeah,
interested in buying a house. But then all of a sudden, they're interested in buying a house, and guess who they're seeing? They're seeing you in your post, and they're like,
yeah.
"Oh, John sells houses. I know John."
Yeah. Well, and Kim, I would even say, like, imagine, we've all bought or sold homes. Imagine that you're selling a house and you're like, well, what realtor will I choose? There's 1,500 in my county. There's plenty of great ones. There's some terrible ones as well. So, but if let's say Kim's a realtor, Kim never posts on social media about real estate, but she does real estate. But when you think about who you want listing your home, do you go with Kim, who she never posts anything about real estate? Or you go with John, who has a huge social media presence
Yeah.
and knows, and that because you see, for sale, new listing coming soon. Like you see those posts. So which one are you going to hire? You're going to hire me. And that's what I mean. I
Yeah.
now run the social media for our team because the potential for free is so great. And I know some of this is for realtors and I know your audience. So here's what I will say is a big miss. If you're an editor, author, copywriter, ghostwriter, whatever it is listening to this podcast.
Entrepreneur, professional,
Yes.
speaker, coach.
How quickly are people able to access you? So I want you to do a project. Go Google, go on Facebook and search John Schuchman. And if you're just listening to the audio, it's SCHUCHMAN. So JOHN SCHUCHMAN. Look me up and look in my bio, and you will see that little, they give you 100 characters. I think it says speaker, coach, podcaster, realtor, love helping people grow their business. And then it has my phone number. The amount of times now, if you don't want people calling you, well, I don't know that I can help you, but this is a way. If you, I hate when I go on a page, like someone's page, and I'm like, oh, I could hire them for this, and I can't freaking call them. Right. And you can tell I get so passionate. So make it easy. This, guys, growing your business to 100K with no advertising is literally so simple that it's kind of like, well, I have to give them something profound, but it's not that profound. But I think people miss it. Low hanging fruit. What's the low hanging fruit? If what I know is, so if you guys go scroll my page, look at the real estate post, the podcast post, if you see that and you were like, oh, I want to get in contact with John, he's a realtor, Every single post I make about real estate has my phone number, and then it's in my bio. So if you're scrolling, you're like, oh, I'll click John's page, boom, right there, you can call me. I want to make it easy for clients to get a hold of me. And I think that's where really, a lot of people listening to this, and I'm not insulting you, but this is a miss. I would love you to
Mhm.
just put it in there. Mine has a Calendly link where clients or realtors can book a coaching call, social media
Mhm.
coaching, which I do. I want to make it as easy as possible. If someone wants to hire me, they shouldn't have to be like, well, I'm going to jump to this thing and this and this. You shouldn't have to jump through
Yeah,
hoops to contact you.
exactly.
All right, sorry,
Exactly.
I get really passionate about that.
I want to go back to something you said because you're talking about perceptions and
Yeah.
how people see you. It's the same thing with becoming an author.
Mhm.
An author is considered a more credible expert than someone who is not an author. And it's not true. It's just a perception. It's the same
Yeah.
perception that you're perceived as a better real estate agent because you have the social media presence.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. When you have that social media presence, when you're that podcast host, when
Mhm.
you've been on 50 million podcasts,
Mhm.
when you've written the book on.
Yep. No, it's so true, Kim, and I love that you're saying that and bringing that up because I tell people in real estate so my podcast is for realtors. It is not for
Mhm,
clients at all, but
mhm.
it has built this this awareness that like even when my clients they're like, "Whoa, you have a podcast?" For all they know, it could be the worst podcast in the world, but to
That no one
them
listens to.
that no one listens to, but to them it gives authority. I want to write a book one day, and you asked before, I haven't. I want to write one day. Why? Am I a great author? Probably not. Well, and for two reasons. One is you get better by starting, and so I would hope if I one day write 10 books, they get better with each one. For one, which we all know, right? Practice makes perfect or permanent, but I think the other part too is if I write a book, oh, I have this book. No one ever says, I see those awesome books on your shelf.
Mhm.
I see that it builds awareness, it builds like authority, right? And that's what this is all about. I don't say, well, Kim, how many copies of each of those books have sold? No, I'm just like, holy cow, she's an author or editor, all those different things and it builds awareness. So if Kim's been talking to you guys for weeks and months on this show about why you need a book and you're not listening, this is just the proof of like no one's ever going to say, "Well, how many books did you sell?" Right? The average book, I think it's what 250 copies, but who cares? Who cares? And I would also say, and I think about this with podcasting, if I said to you listening to this, "Hey Jimmy, you could talk to 250 people for free." Now again, a book you're paying, would you do it? You'd be like, oh, yeah, I'd get on that keynote, that TEDx all day. But if I say then write a book or start a podcast, you're like, no, that's not for me. Well, it's the same thing, right? My podcast reaches
Mhm.
thousands of people a month. I don't know who they all are, but it's
Nope.
built authority. They share it. And so I would really encourage you. If Kim's been telling you you need to do this, step out of your comfort zone, let her help you. Step out of your comfort zone and do it like and the worst that happens is you write the book and you're like, you know what, this is trash, I'm not going to release it. But I have a feeling you'll write it and be like, I have to. It's kind of like, impact. I have to put this out to the world to help
Mhm.
people, even if helping people is 20 people. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's the thing, your book is like a child. And, once it's born, once you've published it,
Mhm.
even though the book itself doesn't change, you change.
That's so
And
good.
as you use that book, it kind of grows and it takes on a life of its own. Now, again, it's not a field of dreams where you put it up on Amazon and,
Mhm.
50 million people come and buy it. It is a tool that you have to use, right? But when you do that, it starts to grow and it does take on a life on its own. It's the consistency factor. One
Mhm.
of the things, and I don't know if you saw it yet, but my book is authored to authority. And one of the things I talk about in the book, and yes, it is available on Amazon. One of the things, yeah, I
Go
got to
buy
do
it.
the shameless self promotion
Go
here.
buy it and leave a review.
But one of the things I talk about is the fact that if you want to hit momentum, you got to become best friends with consistency.
Oh, so good.
You
Yeah.
don't get that TEDx talk the first time you're out. You
Mm.
go do the Lions Club. You go do, small little workshops and things. You do your podcast and you do it for years, and you build that audience till the point where everyone knows your name, and then all these other places start coming after you. It's
Yep.
not instant success. It's you
Yeah.
build it with the consistency over a period of time. And guess what? When you're good friends with consistency, and consistency looks at you, go, oh, you're my best friend. There's someone I need to introduce you to, because consistency is the door you got to go through to get to momentum.
I love this. I just wrote it down because it's like an interview. I'll have to credit you and say I talked to Kim. But you know what I love about that? And I'll share something real quick. When I started my podcast, I have a great mentor and I'm in a mastermind group. His name is Vincent Puglisi. Wrote an amazing book called The Wealth of Connection this year. Um, I he told me in 2020, he's like, wait a minute, realtors are coming to you and they're asking for help multiple times a day, this and that. Like, you should have a podcast. And I said, no, I've only been a realtor a year. I shouldn't have a podcast. To that point, when he told me that, Kim, I think I had made $20,000 in real estate fall of 2020. Right. I had so much imposter syndrome. I had so much BS in my head about why I wasn't good enough. And guess what? Nobody freaking cared. Nobody asked me when I released a podcast for people, hey, how many houses have you sold? Now I've built a membership, right? Where I've created an income helping people create that success. And I'm like, holy cow, you almost didn't do this because you hadn't sold enough houses. That would have
Yeah.
stopped me. 100K would have stopped me, and that's what right? 2021, I did that and I equaled that income by June of this year, right? So
Mm.
when do you become the authority? Yeah, the authority when you decide. Stop waiting for permission for people to say, "Oh, this." I had two people, I started a membership in June for realtors really, but even people have joined for social media help. I had two people this week, and sometimes it's a labor of love. You're like, is this worth it? I had two people this week that were like, "Can I pay you for coaching?" And they were like off like thousands of dollars. And I'm like, I'm literally getting offered for coaching more than I had made in real estate when I built out this other like,
Mhm.
you know, arm of my business, right? The podcast, the membership, all the social media coaching. And so for you listening to this, please stop waiting for permission that you're good enough, because you are.
Yeah,
Stop
you are.
waiting. You are. So I would say to people out there, when are you going to stop with the excuses, step out of your comfort zone, and do something that scares you?
Yeah.
This summer, when I built the membership, it was so scary. And
Yeah.
I had two of the people in the membership say to me, they're like, John, and I'm like, yes. And I'm like concerned. They were like, when are you starting the membership? For a few weeks, both of them. And I'm like, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. In the summer, now they said it in not as nice words, but one of them was like, "Can you stop the bull crap? Can you stop?" Because and he said, his name's Josh. He goes, on this podcast, you talk about how to grow your business, how to grow what you're doing. We all love your podcast. We're learning from it. We've basically begged you for a membership. People are asking me to pay for a membership. And
Mhm.
I said, I'm not good enough. So at that moment, I was like, yeah, John, knock it off with the crap. I'm like, 2 weeks from today, we're doing the membership. I thought those two people would be the only ones on the call. And I was scared, like, what are we going to talk about? I had 12 people on my first call, 12
Yeah.
people that needed what I was doing. My membership is now 20, 30, whatever people. And so I would just encourage you, stop waiting for permission, stop with the self doubt. No one thinks they're worthy. No one thinks they're ready. They just
Yeah.
go and do it. And guess what? I think I have 250 podcast episodes now. The earlier ones are garbage. I edited them myself. I was like cutting out all the spacing. So it's like a 10-minute run on sentence. And guess what? It's okay. Now that I have thousands of listeners a month, maybe they go back, but they see the progress I've even made in my podcast business, in the
Yeah.
membership.
Yeah. That is so awesome. We are pretty well out of time. We're actually a couple of minutes over there, John, but I want to give you an opportunity. So if people have been listening to this and they're like, I got to connect with John.
Mhm.
Okay. So now you already said your phone number's on Facebook, but what are some other ways that people can connect with you?
Yeah, you can connect with me on social media. You can connect on my website. I almost said the wrong one. therealestatesurvivalguide.com. So that's therealestatesurvivalguide.com. And really, and Kim, I say this on every interview. One of the ways I've grown my podcast and membership is through free social media calls. I love
Yeah.
social media so much, I don't want people to get anxious or overwhelmed by it. I will give you a free 15-30 minute call. I do not care. It's not a pitch. And if you're not a realtor or trying to grow a business through social media, I have nothing to really sell you anyway. But I will do that because I want you to utilize social media to your benefit, not
Yeah.
be scared. There's people that saw this and we heard social media and we're like, nope, don't want to do it, don't want to do it. So like connect with me through my website, my phone, Facebook, you can add me, Instagram. Just connect with me and say, hey, I heard you on Kim's show. I'd love to do a free social media audit.
Mhm.
I'm not selling you anything. I'm not really 15 minutes. I can give you some quick tips on things to do.
Yeah.
And I hope it's helpful for you. But Kim, I'll just say again, thank you for what you're doing to help people and for having me on. It was such a blast. And I'm sure we'll keep in touch. And if there's anything I can do to help you or any of your audience, please reach out anytime.
Oh, thank you so much, John.
You're
This
welcome.
has been a wonderful interview. This has been John Schuchman. I hope I said that correct. And Kim Thompson Pinder on the Author to Authority podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you on the very next episode. Bye now.